Would you like to have your query letter critiqued, but you don't want to pay to have that happen? It can be done for free, but it will be public out here on my socials. My name is Gina. I'm an author, editor, publishing professional. I help you make your writing better. Housekeeping things. If you want to submit, the information on how to do so is in my bio. If you do not want to submit to do this publicly, but want to have this done through my editing business, information on how to do that is also in my bio. And if you do not want to wait in either of those very long lines, I have a class down below that is only $30 for 3.5 hours worth of content in which you can teach yourself all of this stuff from start to finish, the entire querying process, and it includes before and afters of successful client letter. And lastly, I am going to work to be constructive, not destructive in my criticism, because this is difficult to hear. Feedback is hard for all of us, and definitely this person does not need you jumping into the comments section telling them to just go self-published. That's not how any of this works. Let's dive in. I am thrilled to query you with my 88,000 word dual POV adult fantasy, The Golden Viper of Cineris, which can be described as a gender-bent retelling of the Count of Monte Cristo. You don't need a title in there, we know who that is. And When the World Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, where characters struggle to find freedom from the passive, and then cut that off of there. So like this very famous story, been around for a very long time. And then same thing here, this story, you're then telling us like what that story is about. If you were comping to like story, if you were comping to elements of like, has the voice of this type of character, or it would be like that sort of thing, but just saying like it has a similar plot to it, like you don't need to share that. All right, working at an apothecary is fine, something most people in Cineris would kill for. However, Aurelia Cortona would kill to escape the tumultuous days with her mentally ill mother. I think we are in backstory land. With the gift of glamour, Aurelia is set to attend the city's esteemed institute. I don't know what that means, but her plans are thwarted when she's arrested and imprisoned for a murder she didn't commit. Sounds, yeah, backstory. We need to trim that down. Though Marcos, her betrothed, is sure she's innocent, he's informed of her untimely death in prison, left with no choice but to bend his life to those with power over him. How does he bend, and how do they have power over him? He is blackmailed into an unwanted marriage to Aurelia's would-be friend, Cien, and actively avoids his... How do you avoid a new life? So we need to clear up what some of this means. Why does he have no choice? What does it mean to bend his life to them? Is it just that he gives into this marriage? If that's the case, then you're telling us the same thing twice, but once is clear and the other one is not. So I would lose the backstory and really like start with these characters. So Aurelia is set to attend the esteemed institute, but instead is imprisoned for murder. Her betrothed is sure that he's innocent, but believes the lie that she died in prison, because it's a lie, very much alive. Aurelia, yeah, okay, so because it's Count of Monte Cristo, right? So yeah, you're gonna clarify some of these pieces here. Meanwhile, in prison, Aurelia befriends Resna, who shows her how to hone her glamour and turn her body into a weapon. So then instead of like gender bent retelling, so it's like a gender bent magical retelling, right? So like insert that piece in there. When she learns of Marcos and Cien's marriage, her rage turns into a plan of escape and revenge. The newly appointed Golden Viper. So I would start a new paragraph there because that's like the next section of the story. Disguised Aurelia reminds Marcos of ghosts from his past, putting him on and so that is then in Marcos's POV. So if you're in a new POV, start a new paragraph. So we're going to lose some backstory. We are going to start with like, this is what happened to Aurelia, then this is what happened to Marcos. And so instead of like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, you're going to give us Aurelia's stakes, you're going to give us Marcos's stakes, and then one paragraph where they are combined together. Once their goals are within reach, so she reminds him of ghosts of his past, putting him on a path to destroy the lives of those who took everything from him. So this makes it sound like the person not in prison is the one who does all of the destroying, which means that you've now veered off of Count of Monte Cristo. And the whole point of gender bending in Old Classic is to allow the woman character to have the triumph, but you've now given the triumph to Marcos anyway. Once their goals are within reach, they must both choose between twisting the knife of vengeance or clinging to their newly found happiness with each other. And that is also, this is the movie Count of Monte Cristo, not the novel. All right, so the whole appeal, like I said, of gender bending this is to, like, how would these stories be different if a woman was the one who got the triumph in the end, but you're giving the triumph to the male character anyway. And so I maybe rethink the way that you are framing that, and or maybe like loosely based upon, so you're not totally retelling it, like you have sort of used this like the vengeance storyline or like the setup of this story, and then you have gone off and told your own type of story off of it, like used the beginning of it or like the first 30% as a foundation, and then you have gone and done something else. So those questions. Aurelia is our main character. What is it that she wants? She wants to go to the college, the school here, but then she wants vengeance. What is she willing to do to get it? That's not super, like, she learned how to use her body as a weapon, but is she doing that out here? So the lens here, the camera here has been pointed very, very strongly at like the first 30% of Count of Monte Cristo, rather than at like the back 65% of that book. And so what is she willing to do to get it? That's not in here. What is standing in her way? That's not in here. What happens if she fails? Also not in here. Look at Marcos. What is it that he wants? That's not super clear. Like, he wants to avoid his life, I guess, but that's not proactive. That's not interesting. That sounds like a guy just laying on the couch doing nothing. So what is it that he actively wants? Nothing. What is, we don't know that. What is standing in his way? He has some memories that are uncomfortable. What happens if he fails? Also not clear. So the camera's been pointed in the wrong direction. We are pointing this on world building and backstory instead of on the actual active stakes of the story itself. As a Hispanic woman of blended ethnicities, my prose, I represent the diverse home and community I grew up in and received my degree in English, co-host this podcast when I'm not reading and writing. You can find me playing video games with husband, wrangling our 3 daughters, and a Bernedoodle. Great. That's all great. That's fine. So we need to, again, like I said, I would recommend not focusing so much on backstory and instead focusing on what the characters are actively doing. Usually when you look at the structure of a novel, the characters are going to be very reactive for the first like 25 to 30% of the novel, even sometimes up to like 50% of the novel, depending on what you choose to do with the story. But then they go from being reactive to being proactive and making decisions. Even if they are bad decisions, they make decisions, and they start by running from something, and by the end they are running towards something. This query letter is very much focused in the running from, and I want to know what they are running towards. What is it that they actually want out of life? What is it they are trying to do and trying to accomplish, not just trying to forget their past?